welcome back to the Artie Lange Show. My next guest has been on the show before. We love to have him on. He's a journalist, a film critic. He works for Turner Classic Movies. Golden Globe nominations came out recently. Got some stuff we'd like to talk to him about. Please welcome Ben Mankiewicz back to the show. What's up, Ben?
What's going on, Artie? Thanks for having me on again. Love doing it.
Yeah, anytime, man. So let's get to the Golden Globes. You got, I'll tell you, I got into that show, Homeland. Me and my fiance watch it religiously, and that was a hell of an ending, man. What do you think of that show?
We do recaps of it every Monday on a show I do call What the Flick, and you know, it's a show that I don't think Homeland could ever live up to the incredible drama that it hit in season one. Like, it set a bar unrealistically high and unattainable. That said, I still love it. I love watching it. It was a little unsatisfying, I thought, at the end, because you knew that was coming. Like, if you're
there was no way. There's no way you think he could keep going.
You can't.
Right.
The guy can't keep going. I mean, what will they do next year? They got a season 4 to do. What are they gonna?
You're right.
It had to be.
That's a good point. Without making him a superhero, there's no way to.
At some point, take these risks. It's going to come to an end, and it gives them at least the freedom going into season 4, which I'm looking forward to, of like doing whatever they want.
Do you think it's going to suffer from the fact that you don't have that guy? I mean, he was a charismatic guy, great actor, and you think that'll be a big hole there?
No, I think it's her show. I think it's Claire Danes' show, and Damian Lewis is a great actor, and ever since Band of Brothers, you can't help but be in love with this guy. But I think it's her show, and the stuff I think, and Mandy Patinkin, and I think the stuff that people love most about the show isn't the will they or won't they get together. It's the incredibly cool spy stuff.
Yeah,
I want to see the CIA workings. I want to see them stab each other in the back. That's what I like.
I said it's funny with that show. You wonder if they worry about really pissing off a lunatic in Iran.
Well,
if they get tapes of that show, clearly they don't think highly of us.
I imagine they see that on tape in Iran and they think, yeah, it's about right. It's about right. Yeah.
I'm just worried about aggravating that one lunatic who's going to strap a bomb to himself. But I don't know. I enjoyed it. I do think that the first season was the best on every level.
The first season was like one of the best moments. That was like I was watching some of that first season by myself on my couch, and you have to get up and pause the TV.
Right.
Like, it's just too much. I can't take it.
Right.
I can't take it.
So why is it that there's no Homeland or no Mad Men or no Game of Thrones in the Golden Globe nominees?
Well, the Golden Globe, look, it's a fun show. It's a really well-produced program. But, I don't think anybody takes what they do terribly seriously. It's a mistake. Although Homeland, in season 1, I think it did get some nominations. The Emmys have certainly recognized both Claire Danes and Damian Lewis. So I don't
neither
think
one of them is nominated.
Warranted a nomination to be 100%. I loved it, but it wasn't at the same level.
You didn't think Claire Danes would warranted a nomination this year?
I think Claire Danes did.
Yeah.
I think you don't think so?
I do.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. No, I'm saying I didn't even. She always does. I mean, she's automatic in a sense, but the Emmys won't make that mistake. I don't think.
Mad Men's another show that I really, really enjoy. Now, do you
Nothing at the Golden Globes.
I know. Well, do you think that has gone downhill?
I think it, first of all, when we do these recaps on the show, this What the Flick show we do, like, we do them from this point of view of, we love these shows. That's why we're talking about them the next day. So any criticism is inside that bubble of, hey man, we're fans. And I thought Mad Men may have suffered a little bit, maybe in season 3 or season 4, but I thought they came back incredibly powerfully strong. And that scene where Don's daughter sees him in bed with, come on, that was just great.
Yeah,
I thought it was a great year, and I expect them to finish on a creative high.
Is this their last season of Mad Men?
Yeah, and I think I might be wrong, but I think they're going to do what Breaking Bad did. Is they added a few episodes and they're going to split it. They're going to run 8 and then take some time off and run 8 more. But this is it. It's either their last 13 or their last 16.
Yeah, no, I that's another show that I really enjoy. I love, it's funny with the timeline. I was born in 1967, so with me, I start to go, okay, now I'm in the world, and now what do I remember about those times? Because clearly they got to go.
Same with me, born in '67, we're the same age, and yeah, all of a sudden, my dad was Bobby Kennedy's press secretary and announced Bobby Kennedy's death to the world. And
Man.
so that was again, I mean, I don't, you guys like you and me, we don't remember that. We were one, but nonetheless, it does add this resonance for people of our age.
Sure, it really hits home because, I mean, it's going to be, you start to think about advertising back then and the first commercials you remember. Like, I'm up to that point where what's the first advertising I remember? And then, commercials have gotten so amazing now creatively on some level that it's hard to spoof them. Like when Saturday Night Live came along, it was so ripe to get made fun of because they were so corny in a lot of ways. And,
right, now they're like, like Martin Scorsese is doing commercials.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I'm curious to see how they and right about when they're coming up to that point in time in history on the show where that started to change a little bit. I'm curious to see how that affects the character.
I ran a clip on a show I was doing of. On the 50th anniversary of JFK's assassination, and when CBS cut into programming, and if I'm not mistaken, they actually cut into a commercial for Nescafe, and you can find it on YouTube. But it's like a 2-minute long commercial, and it's the dullest thing you've ever seen in your entire life. It's like a shot of coffee just steaming in a cup while some guy talks for 60 seconds.
Or Joe DiMaggio talking about Mr. Coffee.
Right, exactly. Well, that at least had an element of goofiness to it. But,
yeah, and everything was so clean cut, and it was perfect to get spoofed on. That's why those SNL.
Right, that's why those were good, and now it's harder to.
Yeah, the early
commercials
SNLs
are great. You're like looking them up and watching them again on YouTube.
Give us Peter O'Toole's legacy in your mind. To me, a brilliant actor. In some ways, more entertaining off the screen, telling stories. Him, Richard Harris, all these guys. I never saw him on stage at the London Theater. I just like to hear him tell stories. But my favorite year, great movie.
No, the best. So
what do you think of Peter O'Toole?
Well, my favorite year, also my favorite Peter O'Toole movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I get you can't ignore the sort of breadth and importance of Lawrence of Arabia, but if you're just going to watch something and enjoy it, I'll go with my favorite year.
Right.
I interviewed him at maybe the first or I think the second TCM Film Festival, and he talked about going around with Richard Burton just like casually in front of fans. He's like, and that would give rise to some drinking and some whoring. And you love a guy who uses whoring in that way.
Right.
He was, and then there were these, I don't know what part of these stories I'm allowed to tell or not, but I keep reading other ones about his giving up drinking. But he wanted the water jug that was next to him mixed with vodka. So I don't entirely, that was his big request. So
okay, so there probably might have been some lying there.
He may have been sneaking some in, but I keep reading these stories that of other people who experienced, like guys who flew on a flight with him, and they'd be like, "What do you mean he stopped drinking? We drank 2 bottles of wine together on the flight from Paris to New York." So
my old joke when I first was trying to get sober years ago, people would say, "Oh, have you stopped drinking?" I said, I stopped drinking in front of people.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
But the greatest story I heard Richard Harris tell about the two of them on Letterman. Richard Harris was doing some play with Peter O'Toole in London, and they were both drinking at a bar that was attached to the theater. And Richard Harris had an entrance, and then O'Toole had an entrance right after him. So the stage manager comes in and goes, "You're on," and yells to Richard Harris. So he puts down his drink, chugs it, puts it down, and then he runs onto stage, trips on stage, and falls into the front row into a woman's lap. And the woman yells out, "Good God, Harris is drunk." And he looks up supposedly and says, "Madam, if you think I'm drunk, wait till O'Toole gets out here." Who knows what's true or not, but those guys told stories that were just...
But don't you imagine that, drunk as they were, that when the performance started, they nailed it? They knew how far they could go and still get it right. Yeah, I don't know. He's those guys, when you hear those guys tell stories, we just did the TCM cruise with, Robert Wagner. And
right.
these guys, they tell stories that you think, you'll never live a life that tells stories like that.
Yeah.
You know, that he's like, well, yeah, Joan Crawford looked at me and she said, come back to my place. And then we were in the pool and she took off all her clothes and swam up to me and she was ferocious. Like, Jesus.
Joan Crawford. Wait, Bob Wagner and Joan Crawford.
Yeah, it's in his book. Yeah, Robert Wagner and Joan Crawford.
It's a nice little May, December. I like that.
Oh, yeah, well, you know, he went out with Barbara Stanwyck for like 4 years. So,
Did he really?
Yeah. Barbara Stanwyck.
Oh, man.
You know, it's Robert Wagner's memoir, which came out like 5 years ago. There's an update coming up. Is as fun a read as you'll Hollywood read as you'll.
No kidding.
Yeah, Pieces of My Heart. It's called. It's great.
I got to check that out. Again, another great story. Tony Curtis told this story once on I think it was on Letterman. Well, he curses and they had to bleep it out. But he tells a story about him and Walter Matthau in acting school together, both unknowns in the late 40s. And Tony Curtis gets discovered. So he leaves. He goes out to California. He's in California for like 5 years. He hadn't seen Walter Matthau in 5 years. He becomes a movie star. And he's doing a movie in New York. And they get him a limo, the movie company. And he says to the limo driver, it was a cold, rainy, like snowy day in New York, miserable. And he says to the limo driver, drive by 46th Street, my old acting school. I want to see if my old friends are there. So he sees Walter Matthau standing in the rain and the snow, looking miserable as ever, as Walter Matthau could look, you know. So he goes, there's my old friend. Pull up so my window's right next to him. So the limo driver pulls up. Now, I hadn't seen him in 5 years. Pulls up right next to him, rolls down the window, and he looks up to Walter Matthau and says, hey, Walter. And Matthau looks up at him, and he goes, I effed Yvonne DiCarlo. And then he just drove away. But on Letterman, he said the real F word. And, oh, God, it was so funny.
And by the way, you reminded me, Robert Wagner has a Yvonne DiCarlo story.
Really?
Yeah, and then, which is basically they see each other at like a diner, and she's just like nods at him, and they go back then he talks about like that was a Friday, and he staggered out of her house Monday morning.
Wow. So Yvonne DiCarlo, who was you know, the Munster, she was the wife.
Marilyn
That's what
Munster.
Marilyn was the cute chick.
Oh.
She was.
What was her name?
What was I forget. She was Mrs. Munster.
Lily
Munster.
Yes.
Lily Munster was, you know, that's what she's most famous for.
Yeah, I have no idea what she looks like in real life without the.
Well, she was good looking, right, Ben?
Makeup.
She was not just good looking; she was beautiful in the early '50s. And I mean, and you know, and Wagner was a huge star then, and Tony Curtis. There's a Life magazine cover of like Rock Hudson, Wagner, and Tony Curtis.
What?
You know, of the Fox, the beautiful men of Fox.
Right. Well, not only was Yvonne DiCarlo hot, but she apparently she hung a few curveballs over the plate there. It was fun.
Yeah.
But like, you know, like that's why these stories, these O'Toole stories and the Wagner stories, that like those guys, this was an era of like you'd meet at a party and nobody in Hollywood, and they were like, yeah, look, we're two of the 7 best looking people in the world. Yeah, of course we should go back and have sex.
That still happens, I think. I think, you know, ugly people get left out of so much stuff. You know, like I think good-looking people have parties that we don't know about, and like, you know, they wink to each other, and like, you know, that's why, you know, it's hard dating a good-looking person because she knows about these events. I think she got like I think my fiance gets these secret flyers that I'll never get for like events that go on.
Sure.
And
while you're working,
right? Like, where were you? I was banging Orlando Bloom. Where were you, honey? I was watching Biography with the ugly people.
Ben, we got the Christmas break. What movies should we see?
I'm watching Mandela as we speak, a screener of Mandela, which I'm going to review. It's I don't know how it turns out in the end. I'm very anxious. Apparently goes to prison. There's some, but like American Hustle is great. I don't know whether you guys have seen that yet.
No, I've seen the previews. It looks cool. A lot of great actors in there.
Yeah, I want to see American Hustle. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a comedy, right? I mean, that's a
dark comedy.
No, it's like it's your. And I was going to say dramedy, and then I realized I don't want to be the kind of person who says that. So it's it's a con movie.
Yeah.
But it's about Abscam, that sort of 70s sting operation. But it's totally fun, and it's David O. Russell makes you sends you to 1978 in a way that you didn't think a movie could. And then Amy Adams, Bradley Cooper, they're and Jennifer Lawrence, who apparently there's no role she can't do.
Right.
Really?
So yeah, she's great. I mean, I saw those Hunger Game movies. I missed the first one. I saw the second one, and I didn't want to. I got dragged to it. As a critic, I had to see it. And I loved it.
Yeah.
It turns out it's for grown-ups. I don't think I realized that.
What about go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I just real quick. I did an episode of Conan, and she was doing something for Conan. She taped her episode of Conan the night I taped mine because for a later date. So she was in the dressing room next to me, Jennifer Lawrence. Man, she's in person. She's good looking.
Really?
Oh, well, I mean,
Tall,
as
right?
good looking as you'd think. I mean, sometimes, but she's not disappointing in person. Put it that way.
Yeah, and when I do
Not
these
smoke and
classic
mirrors.
movie things like the Classic Movie Cruise or the Film Festival for TCM, and inevitably the fans will say, there's no stars like that today, and if there is, who do you, and I always say her. Like I think she'd have been a star in 1941 and 1951, and today I think she carries herself that way. She looks the part, and she can deliver the goods when the camera's rolling.
What about this Out of the Furnace?
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. I'm anxious to, but there's some good stuff. Some people love Walter Mitty, the remake of that. I'm blanking out on the title now, but I'm certainly looking forward to the Grudge Match. Stallone, De Niro.
Yeah.
That has the potential to be tremendously fun.
Yeah.
I'm seeing Anchorman 2 tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Thursday, but
Can't miss that.
I feel like it can't do anything except disappoint fans of the first movie, and I'm definitely one of them. But I hear good things. Like a bunch of Australian critics have reviewed it, and they loved it. And
Right.
the Australians love it. Well, then, come on.
Yeah, my God,
Sure.
the boys down under. I mean,
Right, yeah, because they understand American news.
I heard that you're a Redskins fan too.
Yeah, I mean,
Why is that? And
I mean, I was
is that
born there,
changing?
Yeah, I mean, is it
Unfortunately.
changing? It has. It's changing because Dan Snyder ruined the team, and I have a tough time. I mean, he's the worst guy in sports.
Yeah.
I have a tough time. I have a tough time on Sundays rooting for him.
Do you
And
think
I don't like
Shanahan's
Shanahan
gone?
either? But at least he's in a fight with Snyder, which makes me like him.
Right. So now that he's in a fight with Snyder, you like him, but he'll probably be gone.
Yeah, he'll probably be gone, and that's probably the right decision. I mean, I don't like anybody who hires their son everywhere they go. Like, that's a problem.
But now his son doesn't like him.
No, that's what now I like his son.
So, now it's right. So you're a big guy. You go by the slogan, "The enemy of my enemy is my friend."
So,
Yeah.
completely. That's
Yeah.
So, but I mean, for the last, I don't mind losing. I've been an Oakland A's fan my whole life. I've been a Washington Bullets / Wizards fan my whole life. I get losing. I don't mind 3-13. I can live with that. But Snyder's like mean to people and suing fans, and he's an embarrassment. And that team used to matter in the NFL. Like the Steelers, the Cowboys, the Giants. Those teams mattered.
Yeah.
And the Redskins were part of that, and now they don't. They're like the Bills. They're nothing.
No. Well, that is a bad year, I'll tell you. But no, that is the Redskins are, as a Giant fan, they're always in my mind a scary team to play. That's an elite thing. That symbol to me. It's scary as hell. But it's going through a rough time
Lately.
And it's 20 years of a rough time. It's not, and it doesn't, and they're signing Deion Sanders to giant contracts and making dumb trades and giving up all their draft choices. And, the Griffin trade will probably work out in the end. But the Rams might get the number 1 pick now.
Right. Right. Can you imagine
The
that?
Redskins don't have needs.
Well, it'll be interesting. It's going to be interesting. As a Giant fan, I can't say I'm that disappointed. But the Giants are putting on a season that is just extraordinary. I mean, somehow I'd rather be a Redskin fan.
No, it's close. It's definitely close this year. Yeah.
Well, Ben, thanks so much for joining the show, man. You're always great. We appreciate it. And we'll be talking to you more, hopefully, around Oscar time and everything like that.
I look forward to it.
All right, the great Ben Mankiewicz. Back with more of the Artie Lange Show after this.
The Artie Lange Show, weeknights on Audience, only on DirecTV.